Jeeves and the British Sneeze.
Oh, what would I do without you, Jeeves? I'd get in the most frightful stew, Jeeves. The day wouldn't start without you to wake me, respectfully shake me, and proffer that perfect cup of tea. You make me who in the world.
Life at the old flat had been ticking away as well as it could be during the coronavirus quarantine, with few eventful occasions other than breakfast, lunch, tea, cocktail time and dinner, thanks to Monsieur Anatole's superb creations in the kitchen and to Lord Yackley's wife's cocktail recipes expertly prepared by Jeeves. Peace, harmony and health reigned supreme at Berkeley Mansions W1, and we were just about to enter the final 20 yards of the last furlong of the quarantine when events were drastically upset by one of nature's paramount upsetters. I had just changed for dinner and was about to sip a last word, gin, green chartreuse liqueur, maraschino liquor and lime juice, shaken and with a sprig of mint thrown in for good measure, when the doorbell rang. Jeeves opened it, and I sensed that things were about to take a turn for the worse, for a sizable amount of time elapsed between recognition and announcement of the visitor. Finally, and not without a perceptible touch of shock in his voice, Jeeves said, "The Earl of Sidcup, sir." In other words, the former Sir Roderick Spode, the world-renowned gargoyle, had presented himself at our door. It was not difficult to see why the honest man had been so shaken, for the previously alluded to gargoyle had been improved upon by whomever it was whose job it is to improve upon gargoyles and turn into something worthy of the cover of one of the juiciest crime novels. Spode, never a model of handsomeness or sartorial understatement, had exceeded himself. A quick inventory from the bottom upwards revealed that underneath a brown mackintosh he was wearing black hobnailed boots, gaiters, three-quarter-length socks, those ghastly black shorts with which he for so long disfigured the London scene, a Sam Brown belt, a pink shirt, a white cloth tie and a bowler hat, and, covering his face from the nose downwards, one of those cloth masks which surgeons wear. Weaker men would have winced, let out a sharp cry of horror, and called for the police. But we Worcesters are not only made of the stern stuff, but also know how to receive visitors to the old flat. "What-o, Spode?" I said. "Venturing abroad, eh? Decide to stretch your legs, what? Care for a snifter? Need to borrow some trousers? A change of shirt, perhaps?" "I do not want a snifter, Worcester, nor do I need any trousers or shirts," replied he with his unparalleled brand of courtesy. "A spot of dinner, then?" I retorted, as ever the genial English host. "I have already dined, Worcester," the offending article answered back in a menacing tone. His usual intractable mood had been rendered even more intractable, certainly the result of having been quarantined for so long with the Countess of Sidcup, the former Madeline Bassett, an ordeal that made me feel a twinge of sympathy for the fellow. "More's a pity. You will be missing one of Anatole's ripest," said I. "What can I do for you then, Spode?" I inquired, trying to be helpful to the poor man. "Kindly address me by my proper title, Worcester, and I did not come here to see you," he replied venomously. "Ah, righto, quite," said I. "So what, or who brings you here then, your lordship?" "I came here to see Jeeves, you nincompoop. I need to pick his brains and not that mush that you have between your ears," uttered him. "I say, if you want to decline my hospitality, that's your business, Lord Sight Saucer, or whatever it is you're called nowadays. But there's no need to insult the Worcester intellect," I retorted haughtily. "Do not interrupt me, Worcester," bellowed the uncouth peer. "I've neither the time nor the inclination for your persiflage or for bandying words with you. My basic instincts urge me to beat you to a jelly. but a higher calling prevents me from doing so now, shouted a nightmare in human form. I'm here in the capacity of leader of the Saviours of Britain movement, for Britain must be saved at this hour of need and opportunity. Saved from your revolting taste in clothes and manners, no doubt, I said under my breath, and this is when Jeeves intervened in timely fashion as ever. Perhaps his lordship would be so kind as to tell me how I could be of service, inquired the good man. This quarantine has sapped the energy of our people. I fear that the British backbone, after months of idleness, has been weakened. We need to stiffen it, he pronounced. This is why the saviours of Britain must be revived. It is a matter of national importance. And you want us to stiffen our backbone by baring our knees in public? I asked, aghast at the possibility. No, you useless, idle, vapid pincher of cow creamers, retorted Spode. I want to put people doing something productive for the nation, to get things going again at a fast pace. Never before has a British knee been so vital, so indispensable, and so indicative of a new, strong, manly spirit represented by devoting oneself primarily to the overall good of the nation, my lord, said Jeeves. In a nutshell, replied the delighted Spode. In which case, and in light of current fears about contamination, even at the final stages of the quarantine, may I suggest that a test scheme be carried out, my lord? Continued Jeeves, a scheme which, after its results have been considered both safe and beneficial to the nation, can be expanded at regional and countrywide levels thereafter. Do continue, my good man, said Spode, clearly interested in what Jeeves was outlining. I have been made aware that the vicar of St. Botolph by the quay, Limehouse, would like to clear an adjacent plot of land so as to turn it into an allotment where the locals, who during their leisure hours seem more prone to engage in fights with foreign sailors in pubs rather than in public works, can grow vegetables, expounded Jeeves. This should provide them with the opportunity to engage in more productive, yet just as physically demanding activities, with the advantage of not risking their health. One should, of course, only draw volunteers for the experiment from those who have been proven to have become immune to coronavirus, so as to ensure that no one else with the parish would be contaminated or suffer a relapse. And how do you think they could be persuaded to participate? Asked the gargoyle-in-chief. Your reputation and that of your movement should be more than enough, my lord. After all, the movement's promise of a British-made umbrella and bicycle to every Briton is a most enticing one, quite apart from the words your lordship can say at the commencement. And refreshments and comestibles conducive to a pleasant, convivial atmosphere would also be advisable, said Jeeves confidently. You have something going there, my good man, said Spode with what passed for a smile. I want you to take matters in hand and make all the preparations for the experiment to happen in the afternoon of this coming Saturday. Also, I shall not forget your patriotism and help to the cause, and the saviours of Britain will reward you appropriately. The overall good of the nation is reward enough for me, my lord, replied Jeeves contritely. Bring matters to a close. If your lordship will allow me, I will take care of all the necessary arrangements. Now see, Worcester, this is what I call a true Briton, uttered the human calamity with a piercing stare and an index finger pointed at me. Unlike you, he's a man of ideas and action, the sort my movement and the country need. Whereupon he turned round and exited the flat without so much as a by your leave. Some pregnant, silent moments ensued. On the one hand, I was relieved to have that blot out of the flat, but on the other, I was positively seething with Jeeves for having volunteered to help the perisher. I took several soothing sips of my last words in order to maintain composure, and feeling myself once more, vented my disapprobation at Jeeves. What in heaven's name have you gone and done, Jeeves? Has the feudal spirit deserted you? Are you now fit for treason, stratagems, and spoils? Are you seriously going to lend that massive brain of yours to giving a leg up to a movement that embraces swanking about London in footer bags and throwing salutes that are frowned upon in polite society? I inquired sternly. Would you agree with me, sir, that no longer having the Eulalie card to be played with the Earl of Sidcup, other ways should be found to face up to his wishes? Asked the honest man with a telling tilt of the head. Are you saying, Jeeves, that you have not actually bought him that drivel of spoats? I asked, including those unspeakable black shorts and all? I would not venture to express my views of his lordship's vision and attire in such a way, sir, but my contribution to his vision will be made solely in the spirit of deploying the best of British in a good cause, he replied. And now, if you would step into the dining room, I am certain that Monsieur Anatole's timbale de riz de veau, followed by tarte tatin, will provide a welcome and sustaining break from recent events. That did the trick. Spout's appearance and demeanour had upset me no end, and a dinner prepared by Anatole would certainly go a long way to balance the books. So I decided to think no more about it and leave things entirely in Jeeves' hands. On Saturday afternoon, just as the quarantine had been lifted and Anatole climbed into the 2:30 p.m. for Brinkley Court with our best wishes, Jeeves and I got into the old two-seater and drove to Limehouse to see how things were developing on the Spout front. On the St. Botolph's by the Quay notice board by the gate there was a poster showing a picture of Spout in uniform, which read, "Here are the saviours of Britain. Clear this country, but the adjoining plot of land first, of the weeds that choke it. This Saturday at 3 p.m. The esteemed leader, the Earl of Sidcup, will give a speech. Refreshments, pies and sandwiches to be served. The saviours of Britain promise a British-made umbrella and bicycle for every Briton." "Did you do that, Jeeves?" I asked. "Indeed, sir, and pamphlets were dropped into all households and public houses and handed out around the parish streets as well," he replied. "The place should be full to the rafters then," I said. "I should expect so, sir," answered Jeeves. And Jeeves was right, as always. By the time we arrived, the church hall had been occupied by some 100 burly men and their womenfolk, scoffing pies and sandwiches, by a number of empty bottles strewn about, swigging beer with gusto, as Spout on the days, in full black shorts, fig, and flanked by two of his lieutenants, was spouting vigorously to the accompaniment of assorted comments and laughter from the audience. "The British knee shall conquer the post-coronavirus world." "Cool. Are we having an ease up at the post office later on?" "We will kick all useless layabouts in this country into action." "Blimey, is he also a footballer then, judging by those shorts?" "Nothing stands between us and our victory except defeat." "Oi, Governor, you won't stand between us and another drop of beer, eh?" At this juncture, the vicar, judging by the tone of the comments, thought it best to curtail Spout's spouting and move on to the next phase of the event. Well said, my lord. Extremely well put indeed," he interjected, clapping his hands and rather relieved. And then, turning to the audience, "And now, my dear friends, perhaps we should move outside and, as the Earl of Sidcup wants us, clear the adjoining plot. There are hoes and spades available, and you may take your bottles of beer with you if you like." The final part of the vicar's statement was received with shouts of "Bless the Vic!" and "The Rev's a diamond geezer!" and the assembly, led by Spout, poured outside and walked on to the next door plot of land, which was covered in weeds and dandelions. Once there, Spout lined everybody in rows, went to the front, told the volunteers to follow his movements, and grabbed a spade. He then drove the blade hard into the ground, scooped out a huge chunk of soil, and threw it over his shoulder. All volunteers, regardless of how much beer, sandwiches, and pies they had ingested, followed suit. And this is when things went completely awry. Everybody, volunteers and their wives alike, started sneezing as if their lives depended on it. It was as if a car horn orchestra, augmented by sections of kazoos, trumpets, slide trombones, and euphoniums, had dispensed with the services of the conductor, thrown away their scores, and started jamming. And to that instrumental performance was added a choir of expostulation spanning surprise, alarm, consternation, and recrimination, all of them directed at Spode. "Gordon Bennett, what's this now? The plague again? Is this that virus that have been doing the rounds? Have you been pulling a fast one on us, Gov?" "God blimey, Lord Whatnot, look what you've done to my Ernest. I asks you, how will he be able to go to work on Monday now, eh?" "Excuse me, sir, is this your idea of a joke? To bring that bleeding virus back into action?" "Have you put something in the beer, Lord Teacup? We don't go for those hoity-toity antiques here, you know. Save them for your fancy beers, right?" Spode, completely taken aback by what was happening around him, tried to turn the tables by playing his haughty and tough card, which only made matters worse. "I'll have you know, sir, that I'm not, most definitely not, in the habit of doctoring drinks of any kind," he said, trying to sound assertive. "What's more—" "Yeah, what's more, my lord? Where are the umbrellas and bicycles you promised us, eh? Where are they now?" interjected a stout matron between sneezes, whilst waving a life-threatening parasol at him. "That's right, where are they now, eh? Come on, your worship. Give us our umbrellas and bicycles or else," thundered an enormous costermonger whilst poking a most painful finger deep into Spode's chest. "But I never said that any umbrellas or bicycles would be given," said Spode in a strangled voice. "Did you now?" retorted a robust man who was also the local pearly king, clearly furious at the prospect of being had on his own turf by a mere earl. "Here, read it. It's right here, in black and white. Right here, innit?" insisted he, waving a pamphlet in front of Spode's face. Many other angry voices joined in, and their tone was a clear indication of their disposition towards Spode, who, by now also sneezing incessantly, could but mumble incoherent and ineffectual explanations. The vicar, noticing that Spode had completely lost his grip, and fearing that evisceration without the benefit of an anaesthetic could well be performed on him, decided to intervene. Perhaps his lordship would like to repair to the church vestry for a glass of sherry whilst I explain things to my parishioners?" "Your two lieutenants have done so already," said the man of the cloth, sneezing and omitting to mention that Spode's lieutenants had lowered the 100-yard sprint world record in the process. This is when I decided, not at all wanting to be cooped up in a vestry with Spode, with upwards of 100 outside sneezing and clamouring for umbrellas and bicycles, that Jeeves and I should remove ourselves from the scene as discreetly as possible. Once inside the old two-seater, driving away from the still audible fracas and on our way back to W1, I turned to Jeeves. "Well, Jeeves, things did get a trifle out of hand today, what?" "I hesitate to contradict you, sir, but one could say that things turned out very satisfactorily indeed," replied him. "I do not think that the Earl of Sidcup will envisage a revival of the Saviours of Britain for the foreseeable future, at least not as regards public works of any kind." "Don't tell me you had a hand in that outbreak of sneezing, Jeeves," I exclaimed. "Did you have something sprinkled on the soil, sprayed in the air, or anything like that?" "No doctoring of the soil or spraying was needed, sir. The plot of land was heavily populated by dandelions, which, belonging to the Asteraceae family of flowering plants, are heavily pollinated and prone to cause sudden and strong bouts of sternutation or sneezing once they are disturbed, sir." "By Jove, Jeeves!" I exclaimed in awe of the man's knowledge and cunning. "And did you also have anything to do with their demands for umbrellas and bicycles?" "Well, sir, I must admit that I could have worded the last two sentences on the advertising materials in a less controversial way, but I desire them to be a faithful reproduction of the Saviours of Britain's promise. I now, however, see that it was remiss of me not to have anticipated such an effect," he replied, in a voice not untinged by glee. "I must say, Jeeves, you have surpassed yourself once more. You defeated the British knee by sending the British knees against it, and duly equipped with umbrella and bicycle at that, eh?" "Precisely, sir."
What would I do without you, Jeeves? I'd get in the most frightful stew, Jeeves. The day wouldn't start without you to wake me, respectfully shake me, and proffer that perfect cup of tea you make me. Who in the world would I call in to winkle me out when I fall in those terrible traps that destiny weaves and all that sort of rot? What would I do without you?